and keeping my coffee cup there.
That's so sweet.
Well, so what I would add is, even from the beginning, we were of the same heart and had the same goal in life. We loved the Lord, we wanted to serve Him, and we wanted to see the great mission fulfilled. And that goes a long ways in the right direction, keeping a couple together. They're focused on the same end, and they're of the same heart toward the Lord, and we just don't have as many challenges. I would say also, though, one of the things that we enjoy, looking for the secret sauce in our marriage, and we just enjoy being together. Sometimes people will ask us, so, if you do anything you want, what would you do, assuming we could go to a movie or we could go to Disney World or whatever is available there in Orlando, and I'd say, well, I'd really rather just have dinner with Judy. If we stay home, that's great. If we want to go out to dinner, that's great. Those are some of our favorite times, especially now as empty nesters, that we really do have quiet time ourselves and we thoroughly enjoy.
So how many children do you have?
We had 3 children
3 children.
and 4 grandchildren and another one on the way. Which you're the first.
Yeah, you're the early announcers. We've just been asked by our daughter, don't put it on Facebook. So,
Please no. Our daughter Michelle is our second child. Is expecting her first child in October.
So you have Michelle, and then
Debbie's the first.
Debbie, and then
Josh is the youngest.
with Debbie Michelle and Josh. Josh is adopted. We didn't even meet Josh until we moved out to Orlando. Debbie Michelle goes to Michelle.
what are their ages now?
Right this minute, because their birthdays, the way they overlap, they are 29, 30, and 31.
29, 30, 31.
Debbie will be 32s.
Just curious, it's not my question, but why did you decide to adopt Joshua?
Well, that's an interesting story that Judy needs to tell you because God had a very personal word with her on this.
All right, we married late, and we had children later. God gave us 2 girls, Debbie and Michelle, who were challenging but fun. And then I was pregnant a 3rd time and kind of not happy about it. But first, because I got to get back to ministry too. And besides, I didn't have any great babies. But I lost that baby. And it was a much harder grief than I anticipated. And in my time of grieving with the Lord, I heard God say, I'm going to send you a son, and you don't need to do anything about it. Okay. So time went on, no more, didn't get pregnant. Steve said, should we look into adopting? The word was, we're not doing a thing. So then years passed, and I said, Lord, it's okay. I'm really content with these 2 girls. And the Lord said, oh no, I'm sending you a son. Then when we were moving to Florida, the Lord said, when you get to Florida, someone will say, can you take this boy? Okay, if that happens, then I will think this isn't all my imagination. So 6 weeks after we got to Florida, we met a new Christian friend, and she said to me, so do you know someone who can take an 8-year-old boy? And the tears just came down my face, and I said, we might. I never thought you. Anyway, it took almost a year, but God had been saving this man, this boy. His mom was a drug addict, alcoholic, prostitute, and he'd been living with her for the first 8 years of his life, and experienced an awful lot of really bad stuff. The county and state had taken him away. His grandparents were already raising his sister and said, we can't do it alone. So God put him in our home. We'd only actually met him for about a month. And let's just say that began the most challenging journey. I'll tell you a little more about it later. So I'll stop.
Is that Josh?
Yes, that's Josh. Isn't he handsome?
Yes.
And that's his wife, Brandon, and her daughter, Madison.
awesome story, actually.
It's an awesome start, and it's an incredible story.
What were the greatest lessons that you learned from your children as you raised them as parents?
Well, probably the greatest lesson was patience. When I was in charge of different parts of the ministry, and I'm not saying I could just mark an order and they would do what I said, but I would say it was somewhat responsive. With Josh, I could make a suggestion, bark an order, or even grab by the nape of the neck, and still wouldn't necessarily do what I asked him to do. So that was a new experience. And also, patience in the sense of letting him grow over time. He started, as you mentioned, kind of in the hole as far as some of the values in life, like hard work. Now, I highly value hard work. And I'll tell you what would grieve me sometimes is I'd go out, for example, and I'd see Josh sitting on the hood of a friend's car. His friend had his car's hood up and was fixing his car. So Josh was just sitting there, and his friend was fixing Josh's car. I mean, all I did was like, get in under that hood and help him out. But I'm pleased to tell you, he's a hard worker. Frankly, integrity is a very important thing to me as well. As a survivor in the early part of his life, you said what you had to say to get by. You know, he had to lie, he didn't. He was going to lie. I understand. And I asked him when he come in from the garage, would you shut off the lights in the garage? And he said, sure. And I go to the garage and he had to shut them off. What is this? But I learned patience. You know, over time, I will tell you more later, God has no clue. God is why. But a good example, frankly, of what God must put up with in us.
I'll tell you a couple of things. Again, I'll say Josh for a moment, but not in other things. So, from Debbie cried for the first 4 months of her life, and I thought I would go crazy. And I cried a lot of those 4 months as well. And once again, we dealt with this losing control issue. Just as I was dealing with that with if we were ever going to get married, it was Debbie's like, I couldn't make this time quit crying. And the Lord said, Judy, no, you're not in control. We're great things to help me learn that. I'd like to say I got it down now. But we still work on it. With Michelle is very different from the rest of us. Steve and I and Debbie are all goal-oriented, achievement kind of people, get things done. Michelle is an artist and a lover of people, go with the flow, talk about enjoying the journey. And God used her to get to step back and not always have to be focused on the objective, but to enjoy it.
One thing I'll add, enriching the stories with Debbie and Michelle, one of the things I learned from my children is how to treat people differently according to what they respond to. So my relationship with Debbie had a lot to do with sports, which was fairly easy for me since I was involved in sports, actually coaching sports, since I can remember in high school. And so we had a lot of focused time around that, and even to this day, she still plays indoor soccer in Indiana. And every Monday night when she comes back from her game, she'll always call me, how late, she knows that's okay. And we'll talk about how the game went and everything. That's just been a part of what has bonded us together. Michelle, nothing can be further than what I just described with Debbie. And actually, Michelle has a side that Judy didn't have to mention, a science side of her. And so one of the best things I ever did with Michelle was work together with her on a science project where we built several model dollhouses and we're proving the point that if you keep the doors shut in your house, it would burn down slower if it had a fire. So that's an important little detail you can just take away as a lesson. And so we burned down about 6 or 8 dollhouses probably. And proved it only to discover that when she did it, she presented that at her fair, her science fair, she got an award from the local fire department. And actually treated us that was pretty good. And we had a fabulous time. Another thing that Michelle and I did together was to build a guinea pig. Oh, don't tell me. I'm sorry. You'll hear about that.
So you consider that as one of your most significant accomplishments in life, building a dollhouse?
No burning down.
So the question that I ask now is, how do you keep a balance between your home life and the ministry that God has called you to?
Well, the first thing I had to figure out is, did I really value my family? I don't take that much away, but I mean, in terms of priority relative to my job. And that, as driven as I am, that was something I had to figure out, what does that mean? And here were a couple of things. One is, my job has so many commitments out into the future that the tendency would be to displace my family out just by getting so committed that there was no room remaining for the family. So one of the things I could do was I would actually call up the schools that they were involved in and say, when is your spring break? Or when is this? Or when is that? I'd be the first one to press them for that. They said, well, we haven't quite determined this. As soon as you do, I need to know. So I can put it in my calendar. I can set it aside. Another is respond. If some emergency comes up, as it has through the years with Josh, am I willing to set aside what I'm doing? So for example, if Josh calls or anybody gets called and I'm in a meeting, I'll always step out and take the call. I mean, even in short, depending on how big the emergency is. But that's been an important lesson. But I'm going to give you a couple pieces of practical advice here, just from our experience. A lot of times, what pushes the family or anything else in personal time out is not making the most of the time you've got. I can't teach you any way to get more time. You've got what you've got. But to make more of it, that's something else altogether. Judy has learned, when I ask how long is it going to be till dinner, I'm not hurrying her up or being impatient. I just need to know how much time I have for what I call a little task. And if she says it's 10 minutes, I know I can prepare the trash and take it out the next day. If she says it's 15 or 20 minutes, I may be able to read something that I need to read. But just making the best use of those little times saves me that time. I can sit down over dinner with her. But another thing is, this is one that I have found very useful whenever I can do it. And that's multiple account activities. What are you talking about? When I coach soccer, not only did I do something that I enjoy coaching, not only did I learn some new things because I've never known much about soccer, but I ended up developing something called a simple soccer system that I taught to the girls, and some of them even use it to this day as they coach, because it's very simplified and below what we get at another level. But also, I got a chance to be with Debbie and Judy and the rest of the family oftentimes in church. Had a chance to meet people in the community, had a chance to share my faith. We would always have some kind of, like on Easter weekend, we had a church when we go to Jesus' film or something like that. And there were many other things. But the classic is when I walk in the morning, get this, I walk for exercise. I'm supposed to every morning. I actually have weights on my wrists so that I get upper body exercise. I listen to the scripture on the way out, and then pray on the way back. And I pick up trash in the neighborhood, which is not only good for me, but I find it's good for relationships with the rest of the neighborhood.
He's famous.
It's called the trash.
So encouraging to hear from you about multiple count activities. I think that's a great lesson for fathers and the moms in this room right now. Let's now move to from your family and children and marriage. We move now to a different category. Well, in a sense, it's different, but it's your relationship with God. The question we'd like to ask from you is, how have you kept your relationship with God fresh?
Well, one thing that helps is that the longer you walk with God, especially in ministry, the more totally dependent on Him you know that you are. And so you kind of outgrow any sense that you can do something yourself, that you're now experienced, gifted, and skilled. So now you realize more and more you're totally dependent on God. And so that drives you to Him, into His arms, to your knees, into the Word, to discover what He would say. One thing that's been important for me, that in addition to my regular daily time with the Lord, is I go away 2 or 3 times a year for several days by myself with the Lord. I usually go to the beach because I like to walk on the beach and pray. And it's the most walking I ever do is long walks on the beach talking to the Lord. The waves are covering when I'm talking, but they can't even hear what I'm saying. But it's just a treasured time, and it's made all the difference in the world partly because I'm an introvert, and my job is people. And so if I can pull away and get that time by myself with the Lord, it's just amazing.
Thanks for sharing.
You want me to go ahead? Well, one of the things I like to do is create acrostics, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you a 4-point acrostic real quick. More of the tactics of a relationship with God. Judy, I think, was dealing with the heart. And the acrostic is the word CARS, C-A-R-S. Continuous prayer, abundant scripture, relevant application, and specific journal. And I'll just elaborate a little. Continuous prayer, if I had time just to give a whole message on this in our time, I would be worth the time. Talking about how to make your walk with God something that happens more minute by minute than twice, 3, 4 times a day. Take a devotion or something. That's a whole subject. The abundant scripture, I mentioned to you how I listen to scripture in the morning. I have a little MP3 player. I probably get anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes, sometimes some mornings even an hour's worth of scripture that I listen to before I start my day. Now, often I'll even have my devotions out of it. I was listening about that. Isn't always like that. I mean, when I can sit down and put my Bible in the journal. But the relevant application probably is the most revolutionary point. Because a lot of people, they have their religious life, and then they have their daily life. Well, to me, those aren't different. And so whatever I'm learning, I'm going to assume has some application in my life. And I need to look for that in my life. And then lastly, I picked up recent years, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started journaling. Now, you already know I'm into numbers, not words, so this was a little bit of discipline for me. But what it gave me is evidence every day of something I'm taking away from the Word of God, or perhaps I can apply, or perhaps I can pray about that day. And that helps me to look back at that and know that's right where I was.
CARS, right? Continuous prayer,
Abundant scripture,
relevant application,
specific journey.
Please note that down. It's not part of the message this morning. It's a bonus from Steve Thomas. Were there times when you struggled in your journey with God? Like, were there times when you felt empty, or you were in a place where what David described as a dry and weary land where there was no water?
I was thinking about the answer to that question. There's no extended time that I can think of that's been totally dry. So I had to be lying to you. I said there was, but there were plenty of times I felt pressure, a lot of pressure. God, I've gone through what I had a long negotiation with the daughter of a guy who actually committed suicide. And she thought our ministry put pressure on him and caused the problems we had with that contributed. And he worked for us, and she thought he had earned money that he hadn't paid him. It's a long story, but trying to settle with her was an anguishing period because I felt her hurts her dad. I couldn't even really say things to explain to her what her dad had as another side to him, that she didn't seem to understand. But we finally settled. That was I've had those where I just had to cast my cares before.
What about Judy?
Well, again, I don't know if I can say I've had any long extended dry period, but I'm a fairly emotional person. And so there are times when the emotions would go down and I would not feel very close to the Lord. They had